And so this Rabbi Angel, he started by saying, let's talk about fairness for a minute. And there's really two views on fairness. And you have to ask yourself, which view is better? Okay, A, it's only fair that those that are wealthier should share with those that have less. That's option A, the essential health of the society. It's based on compassion, it's based on caring, and a spirit of responsibility for all members of the society. So you can believe that way, that if you have more money, you have to share it with those that have less. You have more space in your backyard, you have to share it with those that don't have a backyard. And B, the other way of looking at it, it's only fair that people should be allowed to keep what they earn through their own hard work. If I work hard and I make money, then that's my money. I made that money because the essential health of a society is based on respect for individual rights and individual choices. Okay, so those are your two options. Either if you're wealthier, you should share what you have with everyone else, and or the other way is that no, if I earned it, it's mine. Two completely different views, right? So I'm not asking you which one you believe. I'm asking you to ask yourself which one you believe. And if you opted for option A, then you're probably politically a liberal. Because one guy has more money, he should share it with those that don't have as much money. Why should he have all the money? I don't have any money. He should give it to me. That's one way of looking at it. Or if you opted for B, you earned it. It's your money. You worked hard for it. You went to college to do the studying there, right? So you shouldn't have to pay for someone else's college. You pay for your own. So you're more likely a conservative. Did I get that right? Okay, it doesn't matter which side you're on. The point is, how do you relate to everyone else, and what does the Parasha, this week's Parasha of Korah, have to say about this? In the Stone Chumash, it's on page 820, if you have it over there. So depending on your view of fairness, you're either going to favor the one policy, you're interested in certain things like welfare. You want to make sure that there's benefits for illegal immigrants, the role of government, taxation, foreign aid, or some will have a different opinion. And they'll say, well, the contemporary government, they really are, fostering a neglect of our basic social, educational, and health needs. And we're not taking care of the weakest members of our society. And we need a safety net for that. So you have two opinions. Others will say, no. This is almost like a budding or a fostering socialism. And yet others will complain. I'm just saying, there's got to be only one truth, right? No, it doesn't mean that way. But some will claim that government doesn't intervene enough to help all members of society. And others will say government is too invasive and it's infringing on our personal autonomy. And I'm sure if you've ever turned on talk radio, you've heard all these arguments on both sides. Some will blame our society's ills on the greed of the Wall Street people, and it's all their fault. They're only interested in money. And on the opposite side, some people will say there's just a bunch of lazy anarchists who don't really want to work. They don't want to be productive. They want to live off of my labor or off of your labor. You're the one that has to go to work and give them the money that you make. Okay? That's it. So which view is correct? And that's my point tonight. Actually, there is truth in both positions, 100%. What's the problem? The problem arises when ideologues and demagogues and people say, this way is the right way, this is the Torah way, this is the correct way, this is the United States way. When either side assumes that they are entirely wise, virtuous, and that the other side is completely misguided and wicked and wrong and all that other stuff. So now you have radical liberals and you have radical conservatives. We have both sides. They're so convinced, each side, of the fairness and the truth that are on their side, that they don't really listen to the opinions of the other side. So you with me so far?
Yes.
And I'm not telling you how to believe politically. I'm just trying to ask you to think a little bit, because it really has to do with our Parasha. I'll get there in just a minute. But sometimes political views, they become more polarizing. Many people, they listen to only who they agree with. You find conservative people that will only listen to a Ben Shapiro, or they'll listen to a Hannity, or they'll listen to and then you find liberals that will only listen to certain people, and they'll listen to the night shows, the cable shows, and whatever it is, whoever you're interested in listening to get your news or your opinions from. But often what happens, and I've had this happen with me, is you end up with shouting matches where either side vilifies the other side. So there's a book that, if you're interested in reading, it's by a doctor named Jonathan Hadid, called The Righteous Mind. And what he does, Dr. Hadid, what he does in his book is he says, you know what, I'm going to tell you and give you some insight why people are divided by politics and religion. Those are the two things that people fight over: politics and religion, right? And so you have to make some, you can't just go through life, oh, that sounds nice, oh, that sounds nice, that sounds nice. And he advises us to become aware of why we hold our moral views and why others might differ from our view. So let's say you're politically conservative. That's fine if that's your choice. But know why other people are politically liberal. And if you're a liberal and you believe in a big safety net, and everyone should pay for your education, and Wall Street should share their wealth, and the rich should pay more taxes, and whatever the complaints are, then you should know why people hold views that are different than yours. Not just why your side is right, but find some common ground with the other side. Listen to this quote. I'm going to read it to you. We are deeply intuitive creatures whose gut feelings drive our strategic reasoning. Okay? This makes it difficult, but not impossible, to connect with those who live in other matrices. So, the next time you find yourself seated beside someone from another matrix, don't just jump right in. And I'm going to continue his quote. Don't bring up morality until you found a few points of commonality, or in some other way establish a bit of trust. And then he continues and he says, we're all stuck here for a while, so let's try to work it out. You hear what he's saying? He's saying, you see some people arguing in shul at the Kiddush, and they're talking about, I want Trump to run again, and the other guy says, over my dead body, and you want to jump right in and say which side you're on because you've thought about all these issues. He says, don't do it so fast. First, find out who you're arguing with, and find some common ground that you have. Find something you could agree on. Find something you could agree on. I like this movie. Do you like that movie? I like Diet Coke. Do you like Diet Coke? I like it. Find something, anything you agree on, and then you can go forward. And once you have some commonality, then the other person's a human being, and they count, and they're important. And then you can start to have a discussion on an intellectual level. So that was the introduction. Now, in our Parasha, we read of a full-blown rebellion among some ancient people in the Israelite community. The name of the Parasha is Korah. Korah and his cohorts and his friends, they rise up against the leadership of Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, you got to realize, I'm sure, how many of you have studied the 13 principles of Maimonides already? Raise your hand if you studied them. Okay, you got to get to them. You all have to get to them. You will. The rebels, they were masters of demagoguery. They protested to Moshe. They said, Kol ha'eda. Let's take a look. What was the thing? Let's see if you can find it right on the first page. If you go down about the Hebrew, about 5 lines. Ki kol ha'eda kulam piroshim uftocham Adonai umadua titnasu akahal Adonai. That's 4 and 5. Let's see what it says in the English. It says, no, before that, it must be 3. They gathered together against Moshe and Aaron, and they said to him, it's too much for you. For the entire assembly, all the Jewish people, everybody there, all of them, they are all holy, and Hashem is among them. In other words, Moshe, you appointed yourself to be in a very specific role that we would equate to Melech. Melech is a king. Moshe, you've made yourself, is their complaint. Not that God did. But you, Moshe, made yourself king. And then we have a Kohen Gadol. What's a Kohen Gadol? A high priest, right? We have, a tribe of Levi, and the tribe of Levi is divided up into 2 sections. One is Leviim, and they assist in the temple. And then there's the Kohanim, and they actually do the avodah, the service in the temple. So that's a higher level of serving God than a regular Jew from the other 11 tribes. So Moshe, you made yourself number 1. You took the position of Melech, of king. Number 2, you gave Kohen Gadol to Aharon, your brother. And his sons after him are all Kohanim. Only you and your brother are the only ones that can do the service of God. You're the one, you're the leader, you're the king, and they are the ones to do the work in the Mishkan, which later became the Bet HaMikdash. And they're complaining. They said, who said you can do this? And you know the answer, of course. The answer is God told Moshe in a prophecy, this is what you should do, this is who you should appoint, this is who you should not appoint. And they didn't like it. And so if you go back to line 1, Vayikach Korah. Who can translate that? Vayikach Korah. What does it mean? Korah took. Okay, keep in mind, what did he take? What did he take? Torah says, Vayikach Korah ben Yitzhar ben Kehat ben Levi v'Datan v'Aviram ben Eliyav v'Om ben Peled ben Reuven. They took something, all these people took. Korah took, and then a whole bunch of other people that were with him. Doesn't tell us what they took. So Rashi tells us he took himself. He took himself. He separated himself from the majority of the people. So they're rebelling against Moshe. But listen to how they rebel. Korah was a cousin of Moshe. Korah, anyone know the relationship between Korah and Moshe? How you figure it out?
Rabbi, quick question. Is this after the spies? Yeah. And how long is this after?
So that's a great question. That's a great question. They're in sight of, we left Har Sinai, we sent the spies came back. Where Miriam got sick is probably before sending of the spies, and that comes later. So for us, a little bit out of order over here. But right now, we have the Mishkan, so we've been in the desert a year already. And Aharon is the number 1 guy, he's the Kohen Gadol. And his sons after him, they're the Kohanim. And they're the only ones that can work. And so what are some of the things you do every day? Every day, we bring a offering. We bring 1 animal in the morning from the community funds for the community, and we sacrifice it, and they burn it, and do the same thing in the afternoon. So who does that sacrifice? This is only the Kohen that can do the work, that can offer it on the Mizbeach, on the altar. In any case, factions arose. Tensions reached a breaking point. Ultimately, what happens is, if you read, I don't want to give too much of a spoiler, but they started rebelling against Moshe, and Anyone know what happens and where you can find it? You ever hear there's like massive earthquake that the ground opened up and it swallowed Korah, the leader of this rebellion, and the Adatto and Abiram and 250 of these other people. They all got swallowed up. Yeah, it opened, closed, and this and that. We'll talk more about this depending on how much time we have. So even after it happened that the rebellion started. Now remember, Korah can't just rebel against Moshe on his own. Because first of all, he's a Levi. He has a job in the Beit HaMikdash. He gets to be one of the ones to carry the Aron HaKodesh. He has a job that the other 11 tribes can't even come close to serving God that way. He's got something. So Moshe says, Rav Lachem, it's enough for you. What do you want? You want my job? I didn't ask for it. God gave it to me. You want Aaron's job? God gave it to him. And his sons after him. So that's one group, is what he wants. And then he goes to Datan and Aviram, these other two guys. They're troublemakers back from Egypt. And they wanted something. And what did they want? They wanted to be the king. They wanted to run the country. They thought they would do a better job than Moshe would. Okay. And then you had the people from the tribe of Reuven. He went to the firstborns. And he says to the firstborns, you know what Moshe took from you guys? What did the firstborns used to have that they no longer have? What did they used to have? Firstborns were the ones that did the job that the Kohanim are now doing. Before we had a Kohen to work in the temple, every firstborn from every family that was his job. You're a firstborn, guess where you're working? You're going to do a shift every month in the Beit HaMikdash. That's your job. That's where you're going to be. And then something happened with this little sin called the sin of the Egel, the golden calf. And some of the firstborn were involved in that. And God said, that's it. You guys, you went too far. I'm taking away your right to work in the temple. And I'm going to replace it with the one tribe that did not get involved, the tribe of Levi. So there's not just one rebellion going on with one united front. There's really 2 or 3 or even 4 possibilities. And so Korah is going to each group to try and rebel against Moshe. And he's talking to each one. He's saying, hey, firstborns, you should have been the ones, not the Kohanim. Hey, Datan and Abiram, you guys should have been the king, not Moshe. And he's going to each group and he's telling them why they should have been in first place. And then there's divine vindication. Moshe's leadership is established. The ultimate thing happens that the earth opens up and swallows up Korah and his followers. And so what do the people say immediately after that? They said, you know what, Moshe? You killed the people. And because it was their gut feelings that were in control, it was not strategic reasoning. Once they got fired up by all this talk, by all these different Korah and all this different, we can do it, we can do it. At that point, they stopped becoming receptive to other points of view. Moshe knew what they were doing. And Moshe tried to talk to them. He says, Korah, please don't do this. You're not going to win. You know that it was God. You know it. But you're using these people to have different arguments to benefit you. Ultimately, you're going to win if you win. And they're going to get nothing for supporting you. But you're not going to win because God came to me. And through Nivuah, through prophecy. It's natural and it's normal for people to have differences of opinions. Right? Checked with my wife. She said yes. But when we assume that truth and righteousness is only on my side, I'm a liberal, I'm a conservative, I'm a libertarian, my way is the right way, and there's no truth to the other views, like that's what Korah was saying. Then you get into hostile relationships. Moshe went to Datan and Abiram. Hey guys, please don't do this. They said, who are you? We're not gonna go talk to you. This is all your fault. You took us out of Egypt so we can die here in the desert. Completely ungrateful. And bottom line, it's very healthy for society to have liberals, and it's very healthy for society to also have conservatives, because both sides have some very, very good points, and they're very passionate, they're very sincere. But it's essential that both sides listen to each other. They didn't do that, starting with Korah. Korah wasn't listening to Moshe. Datan and Abiram didn't want to listen to Moshe. The 250 elders and the leaders and the firstborns, and the people from the tribe of Reuven was heavily involved in this rebellion against Moshe because they lived right next door to Korah. And what do the rabbis teach us? Oy l'rasha, oy l'shecheno. Woe to the wicked and woe to their neighbor. If you live near evil people, you're likely to do evil stuff. You'll learn from their bad ways. The rabbi said, don't do it. Just don't do it. So instead of shouting matches, we're asking for calm conversation where you can build on your values. And that's really something, because as Dr. What was his name? Dr. Jonathan Hadid. Thank you. Yeah, we're all stuck here for a while, so let's try to work it out. Because the rebellion of Korah leads to just a whole bunch of different agendas. Rashi says Korah's issue was not with the leadership of Moshe, but rather that his place in the tribe of Levi wasn't what he wanted. See, what happened was there's 12 tribes, and each tribe of Israel, these are the sons of Jacob, each one became a tribe, and each one had a nasi. The word nasi means a prince, a leader, an elder, the most respected one. And in the tribe of Levi, Korah felt that since Moshe became the king, and Aharon became the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, and his sons became priests after him, the Kohanim, that the next highest position should have gone to him, because when you go back, he was the next one in line. He was the next one. He should have gotten it because his father was older than the father of the guy who got the job, his cousin, Elisaban. So in Datan and Abiram, they have totally different agendas, and everyone's got a different agenda, and so it just made for a terrible thing. Okay, now
I Moshe heard that very same line, "Who are you?" in Mitzrayim.
Yeah, it's not the first time he's going through it. But what happened was different this time. Is that Har Sinai, everyone received nivuah, everyone received prophecy. And the prophecy that we received at Har Sinai, everyone heard God talk to Moshe and command him. And they knew this. But, that was yesterday we heard God talk. This is today, it's something different. Everybody, everyone goes through different things. Let's see if I can find something here. I want to talk about these. I can find something in my notes. By the way, anyone ever hear of Pirkei Avot? The ethics of our fathers. So there's a example of arguments in Pirkei Avot. You ever hear of Hillel and Shammai?
Yes.
Two great rabbis. They differed in quite a few topics. And it says their kind of argument is sofo litkayem. It's going to last forever because it's based on honesty. It's based on truth. It's based on. It's not that I'm right, you're wrong, or you're stupid, or I'm ugly. It's none of those things. It's what did God say, and we're trying to find out through respect, through discussion, what is the truth? Okay, you hold that way. Fine, I get it. I hold this way. I see it differently. We both study the same sources. We both have the same material. We come to different conclusions. It's understandable. But that kind of argument was to find out what really was said at Sinai. Then it gives another example of Korah Adatto. Korah and his cohorts, Korah and Datan, Rabbi Ram, and the 250 people. That type of machloket, that type of argument, that type of disagreement, and also fully kayem. It's not going to last. It's not built on anything. It's going to fall apart. It's going to slap you in the face. But wait a minute. Who was the argument? Hillel and Shammai, right? That one is an example of a successful argument. What's the other side? Who are the players? Who's the argument? Korah and who's the argument with? Moshe. It should have said the argument like Korah and Moshe. That kind of argument, it's not going to last. There's no permanence to it. But it says Korah and his cohorts, Datan and Abiram, and the firstborns from Reuven, and the 250 leaders of the Nisim. Were they arguing with each other? The truth is they weren't. They were all on the same side of the rebellion, but they were all having different reasons for being there. It wasn't a united cause. It was like, we saw some in the last couple of years, we saw some protests and some march. And what I always thought was the funniest thing is when some of the newscasters would go and talk to the people. And, people they find on the street, most of them are, I'm sorry to say, idiots. But especially if they, I'll be on TV, sure. Okay, why are you here supporting, it could be anything, Black Lives Matter, it could be anything. Why are you here? Well, because, is that really what the organization stands for? Because. So I asked someone else, why are you here? Completely different reason. I'm here because of an injustice that happened. Really, is that what the organization is about? So you ask 10 people and you get 10 different reasons why they're all marching together, saying that everyone else in the world is bad and they're right. So that's Enos Afoli Kayem. They're arguing with each other on what they're arguing about. It's not Korah and Moshe. Moshe's not arguing. Moshe's just saying, come to your senses. I'm giving you a chance. So the whole story of how it happened is so interesting, but you have to know at one time, Korah was a tzaddik. I'm making him out to be like this vicious guy. He was a tzaddik. He was a righteous guy. And then it went to his head. He became a rasha. And by the way, Korah was one of the richest Jews ever. Now, if I say wealthy and rich, you have to understand that everyone that came out of Egypt was laden with gold and silver. We were commanded to go ask the Egyptians, give us stuff before we left. And they did. It was an amazing thing. And then you get to the crossing of the Red Sea, and the Jews made it through safe, through on the dry land. And then the water came back on top of them. And then after that, it washed up the bodies of all the Egyptian soldiers with all the gold and silver that they decked out their chariots with, and they had in their pockets, and the jewelry they were wearing, the horses they were wearing had jewelry on them. And everyone picked it up, and they got all this stuff at over there. So everybody was wealthy. But Korah, he had so much money that what happened? Remember Joseph, when he was in Egypt, he got sold by his brothers. He got sold as a slave, and then he became, the whole story. You've learned this, right? And then he ends up in jail, and then Paro has these dreams, and Yosef's already interpreting everybody's dreams. And Yosef ended up running the country. People came to buy food because he was wise enough to save up during the 7 years of plenty, because he knew that 7 years of famine were coming. And he shared the food that he had, but he sold it to them. He didn't give it to them. He sold it. And he had so much gold, so much silver, so much jewelry that he hid 3 different locations. massive amounts of money. This is what the rabbis are telling us. And Korah found one of them. So he's got all this stuff. Years later, there was a guy, and at the time, he was a non-Jew. He was a king from the family of Esav. His name was Antoninus. And he found the second one. And what happened was, years later, he converted, became a Jew, became a righteous Jew, tzaddik, and no one knows what happened to the third treasure that Yosef buried. When Mashiach comes, hopefully he'll tell us where it's buried, and hopefully you'll be the first one there to find it. And remember your rabbis at the time when you do that thing. So Korah was basically, at that time, the richest Jew in the world. And he had so much money. Now, this is Midrash. I don't know if you learned a lot about Midrash. This is what the rabbis are saying. Does it mean you should take it literally? I don't know. The rabbi's trying to get a point across. Korah had so much money that he needed 3 donkeys just to carry the keys to the safes that he filled up with this money. Give you an idea about how much money it was. Just 3 donkeys just to hold the keys. And so there it was. He was so rich. And what happens when you end up with a lot of money like that, I've met a lot of wealthy people, and they all have this one common trait. I hope none of them are watching. And they all think that they're better and special because they have a lot of money. I'm wealthy. I can do what I want. I have power. Everybody should respect me. You should honor me. I deserve honor. Korah wanted Moshe Rabbeinu to give him a lot of honor, and he wanted him to make him the Nasi, the prince of the Kahat family, of one of the big Levi families. And sometimes when a person gets a lot of money, they get what's called a Yetzer Hara. What's a Yetzer Hara? Evil inclination. And it starts to tell them you're better than other people, and but it's just not true. It's sometimes, I was just telling the story the other day. We had a Torah dedication last Sunday, and when you finish writing a Torah, there's certain letters that you fill. And the donor very generously said, Rabbi, he goes, we got a bunch of letters here. Why don't you sell them, and all the money will go into the charity account, into the tzedakah account that we have. So when we were having the reception, and I was thanking him for dedicating the Torah, and I told everyone, I said, all this money that we raised today, it doesn't go, it goes only to help the needy. And for what specific type of things that it's going to go for. I said, one time there was a rabbi that he asked another rabbi. I'm sorry, it wasn't a rabbi. One time there was a Turnus Rufus. He was a Roman high-up guy. And he asked, it was Rabbi Akiva. He says, does God love or hate the poor? Of course, God loves the poor. So he said, Turnus Rufus says, so then why did God make the poor poor? Why doesn't God just give them money? So Rabbi Akiva says, well, the reason that God gave money to the wealthy was so that they can give money to the poor. And when they give the money, they can save themselves from any bad decrees. Maybe they can save themselves from Gehinnom, from a punishment after they die. Maybe they can save themselves and do something good. So if you have money and you can do good when you're alive, give it to the poor and you help them out, right? That's the social net that we were talking about before. That is so important. So, okay. So then Turnus Rufus says to Rabbi Akiva, he goes, but according to your analogy, if the rich guy gives the poor guy money, what is he doing? He's actually helping him go to Gehinnom. He's helping the rich guy to get to hell, basically. How's he doing that? He says, the example is like this. King has a servant. And the servant does something wrong to anger the king. King says, put him in jail, no food, no water. I'm angry at him. Nobody give him food or water. So, a couple hours go by, a day goes by, 2 days go by. So, okay. They talk to the king, You see, Rabbi Akiva? That's what it's like. If the wealthy man gives the poor man money, it's like he's going against the king. The king would be God. If God wanted him to have money, God would give him money. So Rabbi Akiva says, "Oh, you're missing the analogy. It's not like a king has a servant that angered him. It's like a king has a son that angered him. And the king says, in the jail for a day, no food, no water. Anyone caught giving him food or water, gonna punish him. Day goes by, day and a half goes by, the kid's starving to death. Someone sneaks in and gives him a little something to eat. The king's gonna reward him. It really, this is because we're all children of God. And so that's why if someone is poor, the wealthy can help. There's no problem about that. But that's what's going on over here. And so in any case, Korah was angry that Moshe Rabbeinu appointed a cousin who was lower than him on the family scale to be the Nasi, and he felt that he should have it. But when he got everyone together and they were rebelling, he says, oh, no, I don't want to be the head of the tribe. I want your job, Moshe. So wait a minute. Oh, I want Aharon's job. I want to be Kohen Gadol. Make up your mind, decide what you want. Anyways, there's a couple ladies in the Midrashim on the Parasha that are worth a couple minutes to talk about. One is Korach's wife, because she's really the one that egged him on. And there's another lady, the wife of a guy named On ben Pelet. Let's talk about Korach's wife. So she said to her husband Korah, not only did Moshe and Aaron take all the good jobs for themselves, but when we go to Israel, before we eat any food, we have to give terumah. We have to give them part of the food. Basically, Moshe wants his brother and his brother's children to eat for free for the rest of their lives. And then Korach's wife was saying, Moshe is making fun of you. He told you all the Leviim that were going to serve, including Korah, including anyone, they had to completely shave all the hair off their body. And Aharon, the Kohen, had to do a tenufah. He had to pick them up, forward, backwards, up or down, and shake them. The same way that they shake certain animals before they would put it on the altar. And then, so Korah says, yeah, but you know what? Moshe also had to get shaved, completely. Yeah, but he was willing to do that just to embarrass you. So his wife says, Korah made up a lot of funny rules. She's the one that told him. You ever see in the Torah, in the section of Tzitzit, talks about the one blue thread that we have to have, the chelet. So she gives him the idea, and he confronts Moshe with this idea. What's the idea? You have a talet, you have a talus in Yiddish, talet. You have strings. Really, it looks like 8 strings on each corner, but it's really 4 double over. And then one of those is supposed to be a blue thread. Somewhere today, they think they found it. Others said we don't know what it was. Even if you know what it was, we lost the tradition from generation to generation from doing it. In any case, we're not sure if what we have today is the techelet or not. When Mashiach comes, he'll tell us again what it is. So you need one blue thread. So the argument that Mrs. Korah told Korah to tell Moshe, what if I had an entire talet made out of blue thread? It's all blue techelet. Do I still need one silly blue string to make it a kosher talet? Do I need that? And what's the answer? The answer is you do. Torah says, I don't care what color the garment is. You have strings, one of the strings has to be blue. Techelet. Comes from a sea creature called a chilazon. It's either a snail or a fish, or we don't know exactly what it was, but whatever it was. Or, how many of you know where mezuzah comes from? Mezuzah is a section that's written in the Torah. So we take a little section written in the Torah and we put it on the doorpost, the Shema, and we put it there. And you put it there. So now she says to him, and later he says to Moshe, you need a mezuzah on a door to house? Of course. What if that house has 1,000 Sifrei Torah, 1,000 Torah books, Sefer Torahs in that house? It's got the little section from the mezuzah. It's in each Sefer Torah. You got 1,000 of them. You still need to hang a mezuzah on the door? So Moshe says, yeah, of course you do. And Mrs. Korah says to Mr. Korah, who says to Moshe, that's silly. It's in there. What do you need it for? So she's egging him on, so to speak, and it's going on and on. And there are many other examples. But so that's what's going on. So now we have to figure out what's really going on. So Korah gets in front of Moshe, and he starts to argue about him being the Kohen Gadol, the 250 people. They argue that our own sons should not be the only one to be the Kohanim, and so on and so forth. And so, I told you before, Korah was tzaddik originally, and he was a very wealthy man. He was also a very smart man, very smart. So how did he let himself get involved in this kind of controversy? Controversy destroys families and generations. And there's an answer that our rabbis share with us. They said he had prophecy. Yeah. So what was the prophecy? So Korah knew from his prophecy when he was still tzaddik that his great-grandsons would work in the Mishkan, and that his great-great-grandson would be a guy by the name of Shmuel Hanavi. Shmuel Hanavi, a very famous guy from the Bible, in the time of David HaMelech. I mean, he was our prophet. He was our judge. He was everything. And so this guy said, I see that I'm going to have children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren, and they're going to be serving in the Beit Mikdash, and they're going to be studying Torah. So how's God going to take my life? But he was so smart that he didn't realize he already had 3 sons. And yes, his sons joined him in the rebellion, but they kind of started to think that maybe dad's not right, maybe we should do teshuvah, maybe we should. And they did get swallowed up along with Korah, but they didn't get swallowed to the lowest strata. So they only got lowered a little bit, and they were making teshuvah, and God says, okay, I'm going to take it easy on them, and somehow they crawled out from that hole, and they got going on. So that's an interesting thing. So Korah, all he saw was that he was going to have great-grandchildren. We're going to be great in Israel, so God can't kill me. And it went to his head with all his wisdom, with all his wealth, with all his everything that he had. He made a mistake. He did something stupid. So we're running out of time. So let's talk about what really happened. Moshe said to Korah and his group, okay, you're arguing with me, right? You think that you can do the job, and you think that all these people that are here with you, that they can do Aaron's job and everything. I'll tell you what, you guys look like you had a little party before you got here, and you're all a little tipsy, I'm sure. So let's wait till tomorrow. Sleep it off. Come back tomorrow, and then you can have a chance to serve in the Beit Mikdash, and we'll see who's going to win. Let's not settle this argument now. Let's wait till tomorrow. We'll settle the argument. You want to be Kohen Gadol instead of Aharon? Moshe tells Korah, fine. You want your group to be all the Kohanim instead of our own sons? Fine. Let's wait till the morning. And tomorrow morning, you will come to the Mishkan and you will burn your ketoret. Ketoret is the incense. And everyone should come with a fire pan. Fire pan is a big copper tray, and they put incense on that. And you're supposed to light that. And Moshe says, you want to come tomorrow and you want to do the job? That's what the job is. Only one thing I got to tell you. You can have a chance to do it tomorrow. But someone who's not a Kohen and is not commanded by God to do it, he's going to die. So you're going to come here with 250. And Aaron's going to come. And only one's going to survive. I'm telling you not to do it. But if you insist on doing it, and God does not accept your offering, I mean, they're not going to, be picked to be Kohanim, then you're going to die. You still want to do it. And Moshe says, I'm warning you. because only someone who's close to God can work inside the Beit HaMikdash, inside the Mishkan, inside the tabernacle. And so Moshe is trying to convince Korah, you're making a mistake. Let's just wait till tomorrow. Maybe you'll wake up and you'll ask yourself, why am I doing this? What am I going to get out of it? Okay. Actually, Moshe had another reason for waiting for the next day. And he was hoping that Korah would change his mind, but it didn't happen. He tried to convince Korah to stop the argument, and he told him, you have everything. You're already a Levi. You're already royalty. You get to carry the Aron HaKodesh. You're closer to God than all the rest of the people, and you want more? It just isn't normal. Moshe wanted shalom. Korah didn't want any part of it. It's all or nothing. Once you get so deep into argument, you stop using logic. You stop using, your clear thought. And so what's going on? Well, all I can tell you is that in the morning, Moshe says, well, Korah wouldn't come talk to me. I'll go talk to him. But I want to tell you about this other lady. I told you about Mrs. Korah, right? Now, there was a guy, if you read in the very beginning, on the first line, actually, this is on the second line, but first and second line. Vaikach Korah. So Korah took something. And then it gives his genealogy. Korah is the son of Yitzhak. And Yitzhak was the son of Kehat. And Kehat was the son of Levi. And who was Levi's father? Levi was one of the 12 tribes. Yaakov. So either you say Korah ben Yitzhar, we identify the guy and his father, we know who he is. But if you're already giving his grandfather and his great-grandfather, why not go all the way back to Yaakov? Yaakov knew about this in his prophecy, and he says, I don't want my name associated with any of this. Leave me out of the genealogy. This is Yaakov in his lifetime. Leave me out of the list. But Korah took himself, V'datan v'Aviram, and Datan Aviram, now I'm on the second line, Ben Eliav, the sons of Eliav, so they were brothers. The On ben Pelet, and a guy named On ben Pelet b'nei Reuven. Okay? Now, if you keep reading, this character, On ben Pelet, who agreed to join Korah in the rebellion, he disappears. You don't see his name anymore. He's gone. When you read later, Korah, Datan, Aviram, the 250 guys, there's no On ben Pelet. And you know why? Because he had a smart wife. When On ben Pelet was from the tribe of Reuven, came home and he says, honey, there's going to be a rebellion tomorrow, and I promised to join Korah in a fight against Moshe Rabbeinu. She said, what? You're going to fight against Moshe Rabbeinu? What are you, nuts? She was a very smart lady. And she knew that Korah and his group were wrong. And she said, why are you part of this group? She said, let's be reasonable. If Korah wins, he's going to be the head. What are you going to be? Nothing. And if Moshe wins, he's going to be the head. And what are you going to be? Nothing. You're going to be the same. So why are you joining them? What do you have to gain? So On ben Pelet says, oh, honey, you're right. I'm so sorry. But I already committed that I'm going to go. What am I going to do? They're going to come here in the morning. When they see I'm not there, they're going to send for me. And I got to go. She says, don't worry. Have something to drink. She gives him a little wine, have a little more wine. He goes to sleep. She gets up early. People start gathering together. On ben Pelet is not there. They go to his house. He's passed out from the wine from the night before, But what does she do? She uncovers her hair. And she went to the doorway. And with these people, now remember, they're all religious people we're talking about here. And they saw a married woman with her hair uncovered in the door of her tent. They said, oh, I'm sorry. We'll come back later. We can't do it. She outsmarted them. So basically, because of a good wife, he was saved, and because of a bad wife, Korah was not saved. And that's all I can tell you. So now, basically, there's one more part of the story that I really have to tell you. There's a lot going on here, but I wanted to just tell you what happened. There's such good stuff here, but it's the morning now, and Moshe goes to, and he goes over to Korah, and he tries to talk him out of it, and it doesn't work. And all of a sudden, the ground opens up, and Korah swallows up, and the 250 men die along with them, and all these other people, they're going, and Moshe falls on his face. And says, God, please don't destroy everybody. They didn't know what they were doing. And so that's what was going on. So Moshe and the 70 elders, they went to Adatto and Abiram's tent to try and talk to them. And they said, no, we don't want to talk to you. And as he got close to them, he said, hey, the rest of you guys, I recommend you move away because something's going to happen. And if you get close to them, you might get caught up in it. And that was the test for them. Korah was punished. The earth opened up and swallowed up. And that's just, what happened over there. So now you still have these guys that died and they're gone. That's a clear vindication of Moshe that God believed in his prophecy, right? Only thing is that there were people that still said, no, it's not right. Why should you and your brother get all the glory? So God says, I'll tell you what you should do. Everyone should take a stick and bring it to Moshe. And Moshe is going to write the name of each tribe on that staff, on that stick. And we're going to put it inside the Mishkan, inside the tabernacle. And on Aharon, representing the tribe of Levi, they wrote Aharon and Levi, and they wrote his name. They said, Moshe said, if one of the staffs starts to blossom, that's a clear sign that God has chosen him. So another miracle happened. They get there in the morning, the blossom with little almonds on Aaron's staff. And Moshe holds it up to everyone to see. And it was put back in the bed of Mikdash and put back inside the tabernacle to show everyone that that's what happened. And that's just an amazing thing that happened over there. And that was a sign. Now, by the way, this was kept for hundreds of years. This same staff, the blossoming almond staff, it was kept in the Holy Temple. And it was kept there for years and years and years until the end of just about the destruction of the first temple. It was there. Why did they keep that? Anytime someone said, how come it's only the Kohanim that get to do this work? Only the tribe of Levi gets special status in the Jewish people. Look here, because God said so. And that's what it's all about. You can be a conservative, you can be a liberal, doesn't bother me. I'll talk to both. And I'll do it with respect. And I'll look to learn something that I don't know from the other side. Moshe was willing to do that. Aharon was willing to do that. Korah was not. Adatto and Abiram were not. On Ben Pellet was. And he was saved because his wife talked sense to him. See how important it is? Always listen. So that's kind of where we're at with our Parasha. It's about 9:30, so I'm going to open up for if there are any questions or any discussion. I'm sorry we didn't do too much textual reading in here, and I don't have any handouts for you, but it's too good of a story to not know the background before you get to Bet Knesset get the shul on Saturday. You got to know what's going on. Okay,
Rabbi,
so thank you much. Michael.
question.
Yes, sir.
In Mitzrayim, when Moshe Rabbeinu saw the two men arguing, and he approaches them to inquire, and they say, who are you?
Right.
You will do what to us? You're going to strike us down like you struck him down?
Right.
Was one of those two men
Yes.
Korah?
No, they were both Datan and Abiram. Remember I said before they were troublemakers back in Egypt? They were taskmasters. They would be the Jews who would whip the other Jews if the Egyptians would say, you guys are not working hard enough. And that's they were profiting all the time from us. They were not good people, those two brothers. They were really a thorn in our side.
In that group, was there a third person who left that chose not to engage in that confrontation?
Well, maybe what you're thinking of is when Paro had three advisors, whether he should deal with the Jewish problem. One of them says, "I'm going to run away." That's a different story. Let's save that for a different time. Good stuff over there. Are there any other questions on what this Parasha is and why we're reading it? Yes, sir.
What's the symbolism of the almond? Why
Yeah. So it's I think the almond is like the first of the fruits to ripen and to blossom. So it marks the beginning of a new season. And so I think that maybe it gave that indication that this is a new era. I'm now showing you by prophecy. Up till now, the prophecy was to Moshe to tell Aaron, this is your job. Now it's a prophecy to everyone. And just the fact that it was blooming and blossoming itself means that it was a living thing. You have a dead stick that everyone had these walking sticks, and all of a sudden Aaron's is blooming anything. It doesn't matter what it was blooming, but the fact is that it has some type of almonds as well. So I think that that's what it is. It's the newness, it's the creation. And, maybe if you get hungry and you need a snack, you're just kidding. Anything else?
Rabbi.
Yes, sir.
Later in the future, the first temple, isn't it Isaiah that warns the king who tries to bring incense he becomes full and haughty in his heart? Is this the origin of that halacha?
Yes, because you're not allowed to bring, first of all, you're not allowed to bring what's called ketoret. Ketoret happens to be incense, but there's a certain recipe, and there's 11 ingredients, and we know what those are. And by the way, one of those 11 ingredients has a foul smell. But if you mix it up with the other 10 ingredients in the right proportions, as they were taught, it makes a beautiful smell altogether. And they say that's symbolic of the Jewish people. You have sometimes a lot of righteous people, and you have one guy that's not so righteous. Without him, we can't bring the spice. We need to be together. We're always going to have some very good people. They're always going to have some very bad people. They're always going to have some liberals, always some conservatives, always some this, always some that. Let's learn to talk. Let's learn to value everybody, because without everyone together, we're not going to be able to survive as a people. We did survive this long. We will survive longer, but we need help to do it. And if one point I can let you go home with is, why are we bringing our dirty laundry in the Torah? Moshe one put it, okay, now there's rebellion, it's over, done with. Why make a big deal out of it? Because we need to learn this same lesson. Just think about all the people that won't talk to you, or that you try and cancel them. You can't cancel a person. You can't cancel an idea. You can't. I saw an article today in a newspaper in Israel, and it was talking about, it was an op-ed by a rabbi, and it was just the most beautiful thing I read. It was talking about homosexuality within Judaism. And he thinks there's trends, maybe people are starting to give in and go to same-sex marriages, to abuse the parents and this and that. And he says, let me just start off by telling you, hard, cold fact, the Torah is not in favor of homosexuality. Period, end of discussion. Now, how do we treat an individual? That's different than how we blanket treat something. But you want to make a march, right? And you want to, and you'll avoid certain routes because it'll offend the Arabs in Jerusalem, but you don't care about Yerushalayim that has a 30% Haredi community and an overwhelmingly religious majority that live in the city, but you don't worry about offending them, right? You're always going to have discussions. But point is, just like the Torah says, no, we don't condone homosexuality, Don't try and cover it up. Don't, okay, someone has an individual issue with it, well, we still love you, we still love the person, we still accept you, we can still pray in our synagogue. It doesn't, we're not shunning you, we're shunning the concept of it. We're not going to change Torah for anyone. We're not going to change an argument. You think you're right. How many people come to me, Rabbi? But I'm right. You have to talk to the guy. I'm right. I know I'm right. God's on my side. The Torah's on my side. Think so? Think again. Anyways, I want you to all have a wonderful weekend. Shabbat Shalom. And Chodesh Tov. Today was Rosh Chodesh. So wonderful new month to all of you. Thank you. Thank you. Make sure you all sign in. And